Sundays.
Hello, we're about to make up a rolly John Deere X-Track. First thing to do, obviously take the product out of the box, line up all the parts, and it's easy then from there on. The tools you need: an ordinary hammer, you need a Phillips screwdriver, but ideally a screw gun, a 10 and a 13mm socket head, and a second 13, you need two 13s actually, and a 10mm socket head. And it's very handy just for one item to have an adjustable wrench. There's a small little 8mm head. From here, the first thing I recommend we do is put the labels on the different parts of the product as follows. Always best to start with the cab. Two indicators, two inserts. Always good to do this because it's the detail that makes the product look really good at the finish. Chassis complete. At this point you should have 1, 2, 3 stickers left. One is for the steering wheel, and the last one is for your chimney, or not your chimney, your exhaust. You have one separate sticker sheet for the loading unit. At this point, we're ready to start assembling the tractor. First job is to take off the protective caps on each of the 4 axles. Handy just to keep the bag ready for rubbish on the side. You will notice there are 4 bags of accessories. The yellow ones I leave aside for the moment. They're to do with the very last part, which is the loader. We leave that aside. In the biggest bag, we have the parts for the steering column. We have the part to attach the front chassis. And we also have our 2 pins that we can actually put on at this point, both front and back. This other bag with the yellow pieces is also to do with the loading column, which we leave till the end. So to avoid confusion, I always find it's best to leave it aside. The last bag with cap nuts and no screws is for the wheels, which we will put on first. This is the first bag to go to. So carefully opening the bag so as these things don't fly everywhere. You will find Rolly generally give you some spares, as in 3 of everything, when you only need 2 of everything, to be honest. We put a black washer, we'll start with the front wheels, black washer on the inside, one of the smaller front wheels, hubcap, one of the smaller cap nuts into the end of the fitting, and quite simply wheel on. Repeat the dose at the other side. The insert is missing on both sides. They give us a part for one. So we put in the part, one of the big washers, wheel on the back, large hubcap, and back to the hammer, and the same dose again. On the other side, you will notice the drive shaft has a square piece, so slotting the wheel in to sit down, and again we don't need the washer this time because of the drive shaft, so we just need the hubcap and large cap nut, and just repeat the business again. Now that we've the 4 wheels on, next thing we'll put on is the steering column. You will notice a bag of nuts with a cross shape brace with 4 washers. This is our parts for the steering column. Steering column, the only metal washer that's in the bag, and this plastic piece facing downwards, like so. So what we do, just keel the tractor up, just feed it through here, and you have to use your eye at this point and feel it coming out at the other side, and just pick up the axle so that the steering wheel will turn. At this point, you get your steering wheel, and this is a bit of eye coordination. You put the steering wheel against the chassis to make sure the holes align. Sometimes you will find that the hole will be at different heights and you will need to use some of the plastic washers. In this case, it's absolutely plumb. So at this point, I just pick up the screw that's in the bag, put on the steering wheel onto the column, and just a small little bit of force, it slots right through. And just check that your steering works. There's only one nut and one washer in this pack. And we just feed it on using our adjustable spanner. Just a quick turn. It doesn't take much to tighten this one actually. There it is, good and tight. We now have the steering and the wheels. Next thing we do is put on the seat and the seat covers. Seat cover and our roll bar. Just simply using your hand, a small bit of force, tap it in like so. The smallest pack that's left, there are 4 black screws, and you will also notice just a long screw there. We'll leave those aside, and quite easily, if you have a screw gun, this makes it much easier at this point. Don't over tighten because it's only plastic. Even though it's tough plastic, it's wise not to over tighten. We have our seat cover and our crossbar. Very important to do this. Some people screw in the crossbar, then have to undo all again, because obviously you need to screw from underneath. So with roll bar in place, your seat cover on, it simply slots on top of the chassis. Only one place it can go. And again, be careful not to over tighten. The next thing to go on is our seat. More often than you will notice that the holes aren't clear, that there's a bit of plastic left after manufacture. So it's always good at this point, before you put the seat on the column, just using one of the screws just to punch those out. Always easy. There are 3 set positions you can set the seat. For this one, I'm just going to put it in the middle, but if your child is 3-4 years of age, I would suggest at the front, and 5, 6, 7, go back further and further. You can adjust it as the child gets older, but for the moment, we're just going to align it with the 2 holes in the middle, and the 2 remaining black screws, very simply. Last part of the tractor is the cover. It simply sits on. You have a long bolt, 2 washers, one on either end, and just again tighten this, not over tighten it, but again just tighten this. For your exhaust, very important, simply slots in there, 2 grooves. The rollyX-Track complete. Some people at this point leave off the front loader and maybe use it later in the year as a birthday present or something like that. If you wish to make it complete, let's keep going. We'll have 2 axles in the bag at this point. One is threaded at the end, the other isn't. The one that isn't, with 2 yellow like handles, and you'll notice a small little groove on the side. We just tap one on, and back to our hammer. Hammer it to the very end, so as we can see the end of the metal right against the plastic handle. At this point we go to the tractor. There are 2 holes in the chassis. We go to the one nearest the steering wheel. And again, just fit it along the grooves. And this is where you probably need a small bit of strength. Holding your hand against your knee or whatever, you want to put it against another object. Make sure you see the end of both sides and there's no play between the chassis and the yellow end. Threaded bar, 2 nuts, 2 washers. First thing we do, we just hand tighten a nut and the washer onto one end. We have 4 large washers. On the lifting unit, fit the 2 ends that go into each side. Always handy to line up these washers because there is a small difference. 2 large ones, 2 small, then we have 2 with a lip on it, and then we have 2 of those lads. Axle through the 2 lads, using a large washer and putting the washer with the serrated edge against the side of the lifting unit. When you come to the tractor, some people put this in like so, but I find it easier to put it on the axle. When you come to the tractor, that one actually slots into the chassis, like so. We freed it through to the far side. And don't bring the axle through fully just yet. And we do the reverse. Washer with the edge, the large one, washer, and then the nut on the part. And just slip that on. Washer. And then hand tighten the bolt. This is where we need 2 13mm spanners. A socket set is very handy at this point. And just hold one. And quite simply, you stay tightening with both until you feel a bit of resistance, then you know you've tightened far enough. Next job are our 2 holding hooks to hold the lifting unit upright. You have 2 options to put on the high one or the low one. For the European models, they all go on the low one. The bolt from the back in, you will notice that the hole at the front only takes, the nut fits in perfectly, so we don't need any spanner. Hand tighten it, and we repeat the same at the other side. From the back in, facing down obviously. And we just hand tighten it for now. Handier to tighten these only need to be tightened very lightly. A Phillips head screwdriver. Don't over tighten these because these need a bit of play so as they can clip onto the bars. All you should left at this point is the bucket and the parts necessary. 1 bag of parts left. Washer between the 2 yellow.